until there can be some steps made in the current housing situation in Ireland, and this is not just limited to Knockalisheen, this is all over the country where people just, there are not enough places to rent, and those places that are available to rent are prohibitively expensive. So if you look at a lot of the traditional jobs that people that have just come through the asylum system are doing, they tend to be minimum wage. Sometimes they're also very, like they're not fixed hours, they're not like permanent 40-hour week contracts. So especially if you're out in a place like Mr. Invana, you'll be on seasonal work, and the money just isn't there for people to pay the rents that are demanded. So they have no choice but to stay in the direct provision centres, which means they're taking up space that other people need.
And then if we get into the report itself, once again, you're seeing signs of overcrowding, you're hearing of damp conditions, inspectors noting water ingress, structural deterioration, serious fire safety risks, a lack of any evidence that fire drills have been done or that even all residents could be evacuated in the event of a fire, concerns over safeguarding as well, and that quite a high percentage of staff didn't have safeguarding training completed, and you see things then like alleged incidents of peer-to-peer aggression, which, look, is naturally only going to happen when you have people living in crowded conditions like that. What did you make of some of the comments of the residents themselves, particularly some that were likened conditions to that of a holding pen, and people that said as well that they were losing any hope for actually finding accommodation, and that the conditions that are in Knockalisheen are even holding them back developmentally and in opportunities in their own life?
I mean, hearing about that, there's the fire safety regulations that is absolutely horrendous, especially when you hear about the idea that if there was a bad fire, then not everyone could get out due to this not being this in place. And that's absolutely horrendous on the part of the people who are running that centre. That's unacceptable in my opinion. And hearing about the conditions and how people are feeling inside the centres, that is, I can well believe that they are feeling like that, especially if you're sitting in a place that's cold, it's damp, it's wet, and you're doing that day after day after day. I can absolutely believe that they're feeling that their own well-being and their own development is at risk or is even degrading in certain regards. So yes, I can absolutely understand and empathise exactly where those people are coming from, because I go home to a house that's a little bit drafty, but I don't have water running down the walls. So they're not in a good position at all, and it should be better. It should not be in the condition that it's in. They should be up to date and up to code, especially as you said, this is the third time with Knockalisheen. So yeah, I can really well believe that these people are having very real mental and emotional and probably even physical effects due to their living situation.
Very similar to our homeless emergency accommodation situation as well, and even our rental market that we hear time and time again when there is issues with rental properties or anything like that, look, for example, tenants have nowhere else to go, and in the situation here at Knockalisheen, this is nowhere near the first time that dignity and a lack of privacy have been cited as issues by HIQA. For example, that residents again in their tented accommodation had to get changed in front of each other. If they wanted to go to the toilet or go for a shower, they're exposed to the elements. They have to walk through the outdoors. Even a lot of the shower units or the toilet units are either out of order or you can't lock them from the inside. But again, not our first time hearing these issues, and it doesn't look like there is any real penalty for a provider, because as we see, for the 61% of residents that can't source alternative accommodation, they don't have anywhere else to go.
No, they don't have anywhere else to go. And again, as you say, this is not the first time we've seen it with this provision centre in Clare, but it's also not the first time we've seen it for these centres that are managed by this particular company, Aramac, because we've seen, there were reports of this happening in 2000, I think it was 17, with the one that they're running at Athlone, where the residents actually staged a protest because of how deplorable the conditions were. I remember when I was in University of Limerick, Aramac was almost a dirty word. There was talk to boycott the subway because they provide the food for it. So yes, there's absolutely, this seems to be a recurring theme with these centres that are run by this same provider. And it's so I do believe that something more needs to be done now that HIQA have gone in again and found these issues.
Just finally, Simon, what is it that you would like to be seen to be done?
I would like to see more oversight coming from HIQA. I mean, at the end of the day, Knockalisheen is a state-run direct provision centre. It's not a privately owned hotel. It is a system that is owned by the state, the same as the one in Athlone is, and there's another one in Cork, all managed by the same provision company. And I'd like to see much greater oversight because from where I'm sitting on the outside and from reading reports like this and from reading reports that go back over a decade, this provider has shown time and again that it will not meet minimum standards. And so, in my opinion, I think they require greater oversight and more plans put in place and plans that they will execute to show that they are bringing things in line with the requirements that they should be doing already.